Welcome to the Tom Sense Show. We have got a packed hour for you. A massive civil war inside the Democratic Party over foreign policy, a desperate scramble in Maine, an ambitious Midwestern Democrat running away from Kamala Harris as fast as his legs can carry him, and airlines steering clear of the Gulf. Remember, we take your questions right here on the air throughout the broadcast. Drop them in the chat whenever something crosses your mind. If it is a real question that cuts to the point, I will pull it up and answer it right in the middle of the news. If it is just noise, it stays in the chat. Let us get straight to the facts. House Democratic leadership just handed out key committee assignments, and the far-left wing of the party is having an absolute meltdown. On Wednesday, 3 staunchly pro-Israel lawmakers were placed in major roles on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Representative Jared Moskowitz of Florida took over as the ranking member on the Middle East and North Africa Subcommittee. Meanwhile, Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Representative Wesley Bell joined the full committee. Moskowitz made his agenda crystal clear from the jump: strengthening American ties with Israel and our Gulf regional partners. That is sound policy. But the progressive activist groups immediately started shouting. They claim these appointments completely ignore the party base, especially after several primary victories where progressive candidates ran almost entirely on attacking American military assistance in Gaza. Here is the reality. The Democratic establishment spent years indulging activists who openly despise our closest ally in the region. Now, leadership turns around and hands the steering wheel to 3 members who actually support Israel, because even they realize the radical wing cannot be trusted with basic national security. If progressive activists want to claim that supporting a key American ally makes you completely out of touch with the Democratic Party, they might finally be telling the truth about where their base is going. The squad thought they owned foreign policy after a couple of loud primaries. Instead, leadership locked the committee room door, gave the keys to Florida, and told the radicals to shout through the hallway window. Up in Maine, the national left is pouring everything it has into unseating Republican Senator Susan Collins. On Wednesday, the advocacy group Reproductive Freedom for All officially endorsed Democratic nominee Troy Jackson. Group President Minnie Timaraju traveled all the way to Brunswick to roll out their Women for Troy coalition. Their entire pitch is simple. They want to flip this Senate seat to build a majority that can pass federal abortion legislation. Jackson, a former logger and state Senate president who stepped in to replace Graham Plattner late last July, is framing Collins as the deciding vote that confirmed Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh back in 2018. But Republicans immediately pointed out what the national activists are desperately trying to sweep under the rug. Jackson has a very conservative voting record from his earlier years in the Maine legislature. Suddenly, the left is completely fine pretending a candidate's past record does not exist, as long as he promises to vote down the line for Washington party bosses today. It tells you everything you need to know about national progressive groups. They will spend years demanding ideological purity tests from everyone else, but the second an open seat in Maine looks competitive, they hand a former conservative logger a bouquet of flowers and declare him their champion. Susan Collins has won 5 statewide elections because Maine voters know who she is. Jackson is asking voters to believe he had a complete political epiphany just in time for a Senate promotion. The latest now on the devastating disaster along the mountainous border between Nepal and China. The confirmed death toll has climbed to 98 people, with 403 individuals still missing following catastrophic flash floods and massive mudslides. Nepal's Prime Minister's office confirmed 95 deaths across the Trishuli, Potikoshi, and Narayani river valleys. Across the border in Tibet's Girong County, Chinese state media reports 3 dead and 265 missing. The missing include 47 American citizens, 133 Indian pilgrims traveling toward Mount Kailash, 34 Australians, and 33 Britons. Raging floodwaters swept through multiple mountain villages, completely submerging multi-story buildings and wiping out critical roads and transit corridors. Military search teams and emergency responders are working with heavy earth movers along flooded riverbeds, desperately trying to locate survivors. Meteorologists warn that additional rainfall is threatening to trigger even more slope collapses across the region. It is a terrible situation for the families of the victims, and especially agonizing for the families of those 47 Americans still unaccounted for in extremely remote terrain. Emergency crews are racing against worsening weather, and finding those missing travelers in that rugged landscape is becoming more difficult by the hour. If you want to know how toxic the National Democratic brand has become in the heartland, look at Iowa. Rob Sand, the Democratic nominee for governor, went public on Wednesday to say former Vice President Kamala Harris should not run for president in 2028. Sand, who serves as the state auditor and is currently running against Republican Zach Lawn, made it clear he does not want surrogate campaign visits from national party leaders. Nonpartisan race raters recently shifted the Iowa governor race to a toss-up after polling showed Sand leading Lawn 48% to 43%. Sand told reporters the party establishment needs to move past its old habits and focus on basic economic affordability. Republican strategists called it exactly what it is, an opportunistic scramble by a Democrat running in a state President Donald Trump won by double digits. Sand knows that if Kamala Harris shows up to campaign for him, his polling lead vanishes by sunset. It is hilarious to watch. National Democrats spent 4 years telling the American people that questioning their leadership was unpatriotic. Now, their own top candidate in the Midwest is treating their 2024 nominee like a walking political hazmat suit. When an ambitious Democrat thinks the best way to win votes in Iowa is to publicly tell the former vice president to stay home, the message about the national party speaks for itself. Instability in the Middle East is taking a massive toll on global aviation. Dubai International Airport announced on Wednesday that passenger traffic dropped 31.3% during the first half of 2026. The major global hub handled 13 million travelers in the second quarter and 31.5 million across the entire 6-month stretch. Total flight movements plunged 32.1% to 150,600 flights. The reason is simple. Ongoing regional conflict forced international airlines to reroute flights completely around Persian Gulf airspace to protect passenger safety. Airport Chief Executive Officer Paul Griffiths noted that passenger volumes have started climbing month over month as regional air corridors gradually reopen. Griffiths projected a full operational recovery soon as major European carriers look into restoring their regular flight schedules. For years, global business elites treated Dubai as an untouchable intersection where money and air travel flowed uninterrupted regardless of regional friction. But you cannot run a global transit hub on optimism when military conflict is closing flight paths overhead. Security is not an optional luxury for international commerce. It is the foundation of it. Dubai is finding out that when regional stability breaks down, even the world's busiest airport can lose a third of its traffic in a single season. That is the news this hour. Stay sharp, stay informed, and I will see you back here next time on The Tom Sense Show.